Keyshawn Davis versus Anthony Yigit. This is the co-main event for the Stevenson and Yoshino card. This is a pretty big fight for Keyshawn, right? I know he wants to be on that fast track and get the big fight. I saw an article recently where Anthony Yigit said, man, Keyshawn is young, he's fast, he's strong, but so am I. And I'm going to lean on my experience. So let's get into it. Let's start with Keyshawn Davis. 7 wins, no losses, 5 wins by way of knockout. When you look at Keyshawn's record, Keyshawn is still a prospect, right? And one of the top prospects in the sport today that we often get to see whenever they have a top-ranked card of this caliber, right? And when you watch his fights, you can see why people think so highly of him and why he thinks so highly of himself, right? The young man has a lot of talent, right? A lot of upside and definitely a lot of potential. His first fight, I think, was 4 rounds. Then he jumped to 6 rounds for the next 3 fights. Then he went to 8 rounds, and this is going to be his first 10-round fight. So Top Rank is matching him correctly. And even though he has a lot of upside and he wants to be rushed on the fast track, it doesn't seem like they are rushing him and putting him against guys whom he doesn't have the potential to beat, right? He said he wants to fight Frank Martin. And yeah, I would like to see that fight, and I think we will get that fight, but I don't want to see that fight right now. I think we're a couple years out from that fight for that fight to make sense. But anyway, Anthony Yigit on paper is going to be his toughest test yet. He doesn't have crazy power. He's a southpaw, and southpaws can be tricky at times. And he's had a pretty decent career, right? And this is a solid test for Keyshawn. Keyshawn has been handling himself with poise and composure in the ring thus far. Takes good angles, uses good feints. He has good timing, right? Good body puncher, good shot selection. He's good defensively. The man has got the goods. You know what I'm saying? He's got the goods. He's not a crazy big puncher, but he has pop to hurt you, and he's never going to be a one-hit shot knockout type of guy, but he's a guy that can break you down and make you quit, right? His IQ in the ring is an asset as well. He's not an emotional guy in the ring. He's tactical with his approach, and he's going to take calculated risks, but not wild risks where he's going to get himself hurt, right? He gets more confident as the fight goes on. This is a guy who doesn't mind letting his hands fly at the right time, right? He can be frustrating to box, right? He can fight on the outside and he can bang on the inside, and he is just a naturally athletic person. When you're naturally athletic, man, you can get away with things that other people are not able to do. Anthony Yigit couldn't get away with some of the things that Keyshawn Davis is able to do. Even though Yigit has had more experience, he's just not as athletically sound as Keyshawn Davis. In Keyshawn's last fight, we saw him against Juan Burgos, and he dominated every single round of that fight. And anything he threw, man, it was kind of landing, right? He set Burgos to the ropes and hit him with jabs to the body, followed by hooks to the ribs, followed by uppercut to the chin, right? His offensive bag was on display that fight. His ring generalship, as they say, was on display of that fight. But to me, man, he was just never uncomfortable in that fight. Never felt like he was in danger. And when a fighter doesn't feel like they are in danger, it's hard to gain their respect. And they're just going to come forward and fire off at will. And that's kind of what that fight kind of looked like, right? We saw Keyshawn applying the pressure all night. However, I don't think Yigit is going to just let Keyshawn have his way as Burgos did, man. Burgos seemed like he was just comfortable with how the fight was going. And I don't think he really put any pressure on Keyshawn to disrupt his flow and his cadence of things, man. So I think Yigit is going to be a tougher test because Yigit's going to use that experience and rely on that experience and not just be a sitting duck where Keyshawn can just wail on him. So let's talk about his opponent, Anthony Yigit. 26 wins, 2 losses, 10 wins by way of knockout. Yigit is going to have the experience coming in this one and the southpaw, right? It could be a problem for Keyshawn. It might not be. I'm sure Keyshawn has sparred with southpaws in the gym, but, you know, is sparring and fighting in a real fight, though they're similar, they're 2 different things, right? Yigit's biggest win is probably when he fought Sandor Martin, who also beat Marky Garcia in an upset fight. So I hope Keyshawn isn't overlooking Yigit. He's on a 2-fight win streak where he stopped his last 2 opponents within 4 rounds, but I don't consider Anthony Yigit to be a big puncher. When he fought Rolly, who's an aggressive fighter, that wasn't the fight that Yigit should have took, because that was his first fight in 2 years. And Rolly's style is kind of awkward and he's tough to plan for. And he's a guy that throws every single shot with bad intentions behind it, and Rolly is going to try to take your head off. And in that fight, there was a sequence where Rolly came forward with a straight hand, but he missed, but his momentum took him, and he basically just pushed Yigit on the rope and thought he got a knockdown, right? But fighting Rolly, man, he's aggressive and his style is just not the best to really fight against, especially if you're not athletic enough to make certain adjustments on the fly and put your body in the right position to be evasive. And so Yigit coming off 2 years against an aggressive big puncher like that, it didn't seem like it was set up for him to be successful. I think if he had a few fights leading up to that Rolly fight, it might have been a different outcome, right? Not saying that he would have got the win, but maybe it would have been a better effort, because Yigit, he's a decent counterpuncher, right? And how he sets up his shots, he can have some success against Keyshawn, but at the same time, if he doesn't gain Keyshawn's respect, it's not going to slow him down one bit. And the pressure is going to add up, right? So if he doesn't establish himself early, right? If he lets Keyshawn just come forward and impose his will, and without him standing and fighting back, man, it's going to be a long night and Yigit is going to get broken down. Now, I couldn't find any tape of Yigit's most recent fights to see how he looked, but he got the stoppage win. I'm not sure the caliber of guys that he was fighting, right? Or what their chins are like. But I think his best bet, man, is to stay active and be on his P's and Q's every single round, right? Don't sit in the same spot for too long, right? Try and line up that left hand, weather some of the storm that's going to come his way, and just try and make it an uncomfortable fight for Keyshawn Davis, man. Rough him up from in close, tie him up so he gets frustrated, but you cannot let Keyshawn get comfortable, and you cannot give him too much space for him to maneuver, right? So try and go in, rough him up a little bit, and use some of those veteran tactics to get under his skin and see if you can expose that. And yeah, I'm saying it sounds good, but doing it is another thing. And can Anthony Yigit do what I'm explaining? Can Anthony Yigit do what he wants to do in the ring? Will his body allow him to do it? That's a good question, and I think we'll get those answers as the fight goes on. So who wins? Look, I think Keyshawn wins this fight, and as much as I want him to get the stoppage win, I'm not sure it'll happen that way. So I'm leaning towards Keyshawn by decision, and I think Keyshawn wins most of the rounds. If this was the version of Anthony Yigit that was back in 2016-17, then maybe I would have said something different, but I don't feel like he's going to really be able to slow down Keyshawn, and I think that could be a problem. But I think it would be beneficial for Keyshawn to go the 10 rounds for the fight experience. But nonetheless, I have Keyshawn winning this fight by decision. What are your thoughts on this fight? Who do you have winning? Let me know in the comment section below. If you'd like to support the channel, there's a couple ways you can do so. You can like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you would like to support by way of donation, you can find options in the description below. Also, my Cash App handle will be on screen as well. Any amount goes towards the growth of this channel and will be greatly appreciated. We also just launched a membership on the channel. Shout out to everyone that has taken the time to join the membership, man. I really appreciate your support. I really appreciate each of you rocking with the channel. It really means a lot. So if you would like to become a member, what that entitles, I don't always get to do all the videos that everyone suggests, right? But if you become a member, then you get priority suggested videos, and I'll do my best to make those videos for you. Or if you would just like to join the membership just to support the channel, man, that would be greatly appreciated as well. Nonetheless, I appreciate every single person that takes the time to support the channel, whether you watch, comment, share, subscribe. It really does mean a lot and definitely does go a long way. So with all that being said, I'll see you next time.